On November 30th, 1974, the air in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum was thick with disbelief. The USC Trojans were trailing their arch-rival, Notre Dame, by a score of 24-0. Then, in a sudden offensive burst that Sports Illustrated would call the 17 minutes that shook LA, USC scored an astonishing 55 unanswered points to win the game. Standing on the sideline amidst this chaos, with his arms calmly crossed, was head coach John McKay. His expression was one of placid control, earning him the nickname his staff had given him, the General. McKay was a man who operated on a plane of simple, irrefutable logic, armed with a dry wit that could disarm anyone. When a reporter once asked why he gave the ball to his star running back, O.J. Simpson, so often McKay's reply was a perfect summary of his philosophy. He stated, "Why not? It's not heavy, and he doesn't belong to a union." That was John McKay, logical, unconventional, and brutally funny. He was a winner, an architect of one of college football's greatest empires, and a man whose character was forged long before he ever set foot on a sideline. You have to go back to the coal mining hollows of West Virginia to understand the coach who commanded the Coliseum. John Harvey McKay was born on July 5, 1923, in Everettville, a town so tied to its industry that it vanished when the coal ran out. Raised as the son of a coal mine superintendent, his world was shaped by the rhythms of the mine and the economic anxieties of the Great Depression. This was a world stripped of pretense, where success was measured by tangible results achieved through discipline and relentless effort. This formative environment became even harsher when McKay's father died when he was just 13 years old. The loss thrust him into a world of adult responsibility. To help support his family, he took a job sweeping out a general store at 5 a.m. every morning before school. After graduating high school, his mother fell ill, forcing him to decline a football scholarship to Wake Forest. Instead, he spent a year working in the coal mines as an electrician's assistant, an experience that directly shaped the coach he would become. His coaching style was described as autocratic, blunt, demanding, a direct reflection of the no-nonsense authority required in a dangerous mine. McKay's entry into adulthood was further defined by global conflict. With the outbreak of World War II, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Force and served as a tail gunner on B-29 bombers flying missions over Japan. In the book McKay, A Coach's Story, he said this of his time as a B-29 tail gunner. Sitting in the back of a B-29 taught me two things: how to meditate and how to smoke cigars. You had to do something to pass the time. Was I a good tail gunner? Outstanding. I never shot myself once, but I never shot down any planes. The Army Air Force had what seemed to be like a million surplus tail gunners, and the war was winding down by that time. It wasn't all peachy for McKay, however. He lost his 18-year-old brother Richard in World War II, who was on a minesweeper. McKay said his brother's ship either struck a mine or was hit by a submarine, but it was blown up and nobody was ever found. Compared to the stakes of World War II, the manufactured crises of a football game seemed almost trivial by comparison. This detachment manifested as the legendary wit he used to manage players and endure the immense stress of coaching. It was a coping mechanism born from surviving true peril. After the war, at the advanced age of 23, McKay finally enrolled in college. He spent 1 year at Purdue University before transferring to the University of Oregon, where he became a star halfback. He was a key player on the exceptional 1948 Ducks team, which featured future Hall of Fame quarterback Norm Van Brocklin, and earned a spot in the 1949 Cotton Bowl. His playing career, however, came to an abrupt end during his senior season in 1949 when he suffered a devastating knee injury. Faced with this adversity, he turned down a professional contract and accepted a position as an assistant coach at Oregon, beginning his journey on the sideline. After 9 seasons as an assistant at Oregon, McKay moved to the University of Southern California in 1959 to join the staff of head coach Don Clark. He arrived at a program in turmoil. The university was on NCAA probation for recruiting violations, and the team had suffered losing seasons in 1957 and 1958. After the 1959 season, Clark resigned, and McKay was named his successor, but his appointment was not popular. He was hired on a precarious one-year trial basis. The program's struggles continued. USC posted mediocre records of 4-6 in 1960 and 4-5-1 in 1961. McKay himself would later describe these early teams as the slowest he had ever been around. The pressure mounted quickly, and by the start of the 1962 season, influential alumni were actively lobbying for him to be fired. University President Norman Topping resisted, believing in the players McKay had managed to recruit despite the sanctions, and granted him one more year to prove himself. It was a decision that would change the course of college football history. The period between 1962 and 1974 marked the construction of one of college football's most formidable empires. At the heart of it all was an offensive philosophy that revolutionized the game, the I formation. While John McKay did not invent the formation, he perfected and popularized it, making it the signature of his dynasty. McKay's genius was in recognizing the formation's potential to create a powerful downhill running attack designed to physically overwhelm opponents. The system is built on two core principles. First, by starting 6 to 8 yards deep in the backfield, the tailback gets a clear view of the defense and a running start, allowing him to hit the line of scrimmage with maximum power and momentum. Second, the formation weaponizes the fullback, who serves as a human battering ram, a lead blocker tasked with clearing a path for the tailback. This simple yet devastating concept was the foundation of McKay's most famous plays. Student body right and student body left, power sweeps that defenses knew were coming but often could not stop. The system found its ultimate proof of concept in tailback Mike Garrett, who won the Heisman Trophy in 1965. Garrett was the prototype who established the Tailback U identity that would define USC for decades, paving the way for a lineage of legendary runners from O.J. Simpson to Charles White and Marcus Allen. McKay's dynasty produced 4 national championship teams, each with its own distinct narrative. The first came in 1962, a season that served as McKay's ultimate vindication. He began the year on the verge of being fired, but he led an undersized yet tenacious team to a perfect 11-0 record. The season culminated in one of the most exciting Rose Bowls ever played, a 42-37 victory over Wisconsin that secured McKay's first national title. The 1967 season was defined by a monumental clash dubbed the Game of the Century. It pitted number 1 ranked UCLA against number 4 ranked USC, with the national championship on the line. The game is remembered for O.J. Simpson's electrifying 64-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter that provided the winning margin in a 21-20 USC victory. It was also a showcase of McKay's tactical brilliance. Having noticed in film study that UCLA's kicker had a low trajectory, McKay inserted his 6'8" defensive lineman Bill Hayhoe with simple instructions. Don't rush, just stand up and put your arms in the air. The unconventional tactic worked perfectly, as Hayhoe blocked 2 field goals and, most critically, tipped an extra point that proved to be the difference in the game. Many historians consider McKay's 1972 squad to be among the greatest college football teams of all time. This perfectly balanced and talent-laden team went 12-0 and was so dominant that it never trailed in the second half of a game all season. The roster was a collection of future legends, including quarterback Pat Hayden, punishing fullback Sam Bam Cunningham, and graceful receiver Lynn Swann. They capped their perfect season with a dominant 42-17 victory over Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. McKay's final championship team in 1974 was defined by its resilience and flair for the dramatic. The season featured 2 of the most legendary comebacks in USC history. First, against rival Notre Dame, the Trojans found themselves trailing 24-6 just before halftime. Sparked by a 102-yard kickoff return for a touchdown by Anthony Davis to open the second half, USC scored 55 unanswered points in less than 17 minutes of game time to win 55-24. They followed that with another dramatic comeback in the 1975 Rose Bowl against Ohio State. Trailing 17-16 with just over 2 minutes remaining, McKay boldly opted to go for a two-point conversion. Quarterback Pat Hayden completed a pass to secure the 18-17 win and a share of the national championship, a perfect encapsulation of McKay's philosophy to always play for the win. Perhaps McKay's most profound contribution to football occurred off the scoreboard. On September 12, 1970, he took his fully integrated USC team to Birmingham to play Bear Bryant's all-white Alabama Crimson Tide. USC was the first fully integrated team to ever play in the state of Alabama, and the game was freighted with immense social significance. The on-field contest was a demolition. USC's all-black backfield, featuring quarterback Jimmy Jones, tailback Clarence Davis, and sophomore fullback Sam Cunningham, physically dominated the Crimson Tide. Cunningham was the star, running for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns in a lopsided 42-21 USC victory. His performance was so dominant that it gave Bryant the political cover he needed to accelerate the integration of his own program. In his autobiography, Bear, Bryant later credited assistant Jerry Claiborne as saying, "Sam Cunningham did more to integrate Alabama in 60 minutes than Martin Luther King did in 20 years, a testament to the game's power as a catalyst for change." In 1976, McKay left the dynasty he had built at USC for the ultimate challenge, becoming the first head coach of the NFL expansion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. From Cardinal and Gold, The Oral History of USC Trojans Football by Steve Delson. In 1976 in Los Angeles, the fabled John McKay left USC to become the first head coach of the newly formed Tampa Bay Buccaneers. McKay later said, "I wanted to make some money. It's that simple." In 1975, USC had paid him $48,000 a year to be its coach and athletic director. Tampa Bay, the new NFL expansion team, had reportedly offered him a 10-year deal at $250,000 per year. The move took him from the pinnacle of the sport to its absolute depths. The early years in Tampa were an exercise in futility. The Buccaneers lost their first 26 consecutive games, an NFL record that still stands. During this period of unprecedented losing, McKay's sharp, sardonic wit became his defining characteristic and a primary survival tool. His press conferences became legendary. When a reporter asked what he thought of his team's execution, McKay deadpanned, "I'm in favor of it." After another loss, he summarized his team's ineptitude by saying, "We didn't tackle well today, but we made up for it by not blocking." And one more from Cardinal and Gold. When asked about the importance of emotion, he said, "Emotion is overrated. My wife is emotional, but she's a lousy football player." The gallows humor was more than just jokes, it was a sophisticated strategy. By publicly mocking his team's failures, he deflected criticism away from his young players, maintained morale, and masterfully controlled the public narrative, buying himself the time he needed to build a winner. Behind the curtain of jokes, McKay was methodically building a competitive team. The foundation was laid through the draft, with cornerstone players like defensive end Leroy Selman, the franchise's first Hall of Fame inductee, and quarterback Doug Williams. The payoff was swift and stunning. In 1979, just their fourth year of existence, the Buccaneers completed a miraculous worst-to-first turnaround, winning the NFC Central Division title. They defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs before falling just one game short of the Super Bowl, losing the NFC Championship game to the Los Angeles Rams 9-0. Taking a team from a historic laughingstock to a championship contender in 4 years remains one of the most remarkable building projects in professional sports history. John McKay retired from coaching after the 1984 season, but his influence persists. His most notable protege was Joe Gibbs, who served as an assistant in Tampa Bay before going on to a Hall of Fame career as the head coach of the Washington Redskins, winning 3 Super Bowls. At USC, his legacy is foundational. The Tailback U identity he forged remains a cornerstone of the program, and the university honored him by naming its state of the art athletic facility the John McKay Center. For all his gruffness, those who knew him best remembered a man of deep loyalty. Doug Williams, whom McKay drafted as one of the NFL's first black starting quarterbacks in a controversial move at the time, recalled him as a father figure who fiercely defended him from criticism. McKay passed away on June 10, 2001, at the age of 77. His ashes were spread across the turf of the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the battlefield where he built his empire. He was a singular figure in American sports, a brilliant innovator, a master motivator, and a legendary character. He was, in the end, exactly what his staff called him, the General. An architect who designed a program, built a brand, and constructed a legacy that reshaped the landscape of football forever.